I'm now going to make a locking point for a shed. We're going to use this angle iron and then we're going to cut it to size and drill 3 holes in it. 2 holes will be for the bolt, 1 hole will be for the actual padlock. Once we've fixed this in position, you can then use a chain and you can chain up valuable tools and it will prevent an opportunist thief from stealing them. It won't stop an ardent burglar who may have the equipment to cut the chain or get through the lock or whatever, or even cut through this because it will only be mild steel, but it will stop an opportunist thief. This is the chain that we're going to be using and this is the lock. If you look at the actual chain, you'll notice that the lock will not actually pass through the chain all that easily. I can't actually get it onto the wider part of the lock there, it just won't go. So we need to spread that chain slightly. That's very easy if you've got a vise. All we need to do is place that in the vise that way, and then we'll just tighten up the vise, and that will actually spread the chain. If we now take the chain, you can see that the padlock easily passes through the chain. We're going to start off by cutting the metal to the correct length. If you don't have a saw like this, you can always use an hacksaw, although it is much more difficult. We're now just going to remove any burrs. The beauty of cutting with the Evolution machine is that there are very few burrs to clean off. So we're going to mark the drill holes and we're going to have them about 30mm in from the back edge. So we're just going to get a scriber and we're just going to scribe a line across there. And then we're going to scribe a line in the opposite direction at 20mm. And where those two lines intersect is where we will centre punch it for drilling the holes. We'll then just take a centre punch and we'll give each of those a smack. You can see that I've scored a line on there. We need to make sure that the padlock will fit if we were to drill an hole there. And as you can see, we have got a couple of mil clearance there, so that will work. We're now just going to mark the centre. So I'll now centre punch that. And then we're going to increase the size of the hole by using an 8.6mm drill bit. We're going to be using M10 coach bolts to secure the brackets in position, so we're going to use a 10.5mm drill bit for the 2 fixing holes. And then finally we're going to go through with a 13mm drill bit. So basically that's how to make the plate. Simply 3 holes drilled in a piece of angle iron. We're now just going to remove a few of these burrs using a file, and then we're going to paint this up. I gave this a look of paint yesterday and now it's ready to be installed. We're going to install it about there. That way it's not sticking out so nobody can actually walk in it. So I'm just going to spot through the holes at the back using felt tape. And then I'm just going to put some safety glasses on and then I'm going to drill the 2 holes. I've then cut 2 coach bolts to the correct length. I'm now going to knock them up from underneath. I'm then going to place a washer on the coach bolts. We're going to use a shear nut to tighten the bracket down, but because we're using the coach bolt in wood, there's a good chance that the actual coach bolt will pull through the timber before it shears off. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a normal nut on there first. We'll put that on there, tighten that up, and then we will use a shear nut that way up. That will shear off, and that will leave a surface that will be very difficult to grip, so there's less chance of somebody coming and removing that with a spanner. We've now put the first nut on. We're now going to put the shear nut on top of that. In order to shear off the shear nut, I'm going to have to use a spanner to hold the bottom nut in position. And you can see that the head has sheared off that nut. That has left behind a dome, which is incredibly difficult to grip, so it's almost impossible to remove that without specialist tools. Now we've done that, the bracket is very secure. We can quite safely fix things to that, knowing that it will be very difficult for an opportunist thief to remove it. That is now a lot more secure than what it was, and that can prevent somebody from stealing your valuable equipment. You can also use that technique on chainsaws, still saws and the like by feeding the chain through the handle. Once your equipment is chained up like that, it does make it a lot more difficult for any opportunist thief to steal your equipment.